and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time. My name is Taylor, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my life story, just who I am, what I've been through in life. So if you would like to get to know me, then please keep watching. Let's get into the video. We're just going to go ahead and jump right into the video, starting off with my name. Obviously, my name is Taylor, but my full name is Taylor Anissa Lockhart. I was born on March 12th. And I'm 23 years old. You guys can do the math. And I was born and raised in Orange County, California. Before you guys get all excited, like, oh my gosh, you grew up in Orange County, you must have been so rich, stuff like that. No, that is not the case. I grew up around a lot of gangsters, gangs. There was drug houses across the street from my house. But that being said, don't let that scare you. I was never in danger. I was used to it because, growing up, that's all I saw, them driving down the street, bumping their music and stuff like that. So I never, saw the bad stuff of it. I would just hear the bad stuff would happen. So it didn't affect me. I grew up with my mom, my grandma, and my grandpa. My dad, the guy who made me, as I like to call him, he was never in the picture. He was a big drug addict. Actually, even to this day, 23 years later, he is still a big drug addict. But, he's not part of my life. He's just someone that made me. So, yeah. And with that being said, I never felt abandoned. I never once missed him or wanted him in my life. I met him once, and I was like, nope, I'm good. Like, I don't like you. It's just my grandma, my grandpa, and my mom. We all, just hung out and did our thing. The youngest thing I can remember is when I was 5 years old, and my grandpa actually ended up getting cancer. He had prostate cancer, and that was a big thing in our family at the time. Of course, I was only 5 years old, so I didn't really get the concept of what was going on, but I knew that it was bad because everyone was sad. So I kind of went with them. I was sad as well. I remember always reading to him after school. I would come home, sit next to his hospital bed, read him books, tell him stories, everything. Then one day he just didn't wake up, and we knew he was still alive, but he was just basically in a coma-ish type state, and he didn't end up waking up. So I was like, okay, the time's coming. And he ended up passing away in January. I was in kindergarten. I remember being at his funeral and just looking around, kind of just, taking it all in, absorbing everything, I guess you would say, because, I've never been to a funeral. I never experienced death before this. So I was like, okay, this is all new. I would cry sometimes and stuff like that. So that happened, and it was just my mom, myself, and my grandma, Mimi, as I like to call her. And, we would just hang out. I was such a grandma's girl. I would want to go anywhere and everywhere with my grandma. I remember I would want to go to work with her, to the grocery store, to her friend's house. Anywhere and everywhere I wanted to go with my grandma. My mom was working and going to school at the time, so she was busy and she was doing whatever other stuff of my childhood, just going to school. I was always at my friend's house. I had a best friend named Michelle. I was always at her house. We were swimming, just living life, doing stuff. And then 2005 comes around. It's 2005? Yeah, 2005 comes around, and I had just started 5th grade. It was the first week of 5th grade, and this was something that I never expected to happen, nor would I ever thought that this day would come. But I woke up one morning and there was a lot of commotion going on. I was like, what in the world's going on? I'm just trying to get ready for school here. I was in the bathroom. My grandma was trying to do my hair, and there was a guy there. It was my mom's friend at the time, or her boyfriend, whoever he was, her boyfriend. And I remember just a lot of stuff happened. The police ended up coming, the ambulance came. I think one other person came. I don't know who, but someone else was there. And they were like, we're sorry to inform you, but your mom passed away. And you guys, I'm so speechless because thinking back on that, Like, that compared to my grandpa's death, that definitely had me shook. I was like, okay, my mom just died. Like, what in the world am I gonna do? Like, when you hear people say, like, they felt like the world came crashing down, that's literally how I felt. I was like, I remember just, like, breaking down, crying, and I think one of the policemen's arms, I was just, like, bawling my eyes out. I was like, what the heck? And at that time, my grandma was like, you know what, stay home from school, you don't have to go to school. But I insisted on going to school. I guess I've always been the type of person, ever since I was little, that if there's a bad situation going on, like a negative situation, I always want to surround myself with positivity, happiness, just so I don't really have to think about it. So I was like, no, I want to go to school, I want to be around my friends, I want to go see my teachers and everything. So the police took me to school, and I'll never forget walking through the gates, because there was like a little yard you had to walk through to get to the school office. I remember walking there because the policeman like kind of like had his hand on my shoulder, and everyone was looking at me like, what did Taylor do? And I was like, I didn't do anything, you know, I'm not a bad kid. So that was definitely a big thing to have to go through at just 10 years old. But, you know, me and my grandma, we made it through it. Then a couple years later, I think the year was 2007, she ended up having to go on dialysis because she got really sick, and, you know, she had kidney failure and she was diabetic. So she would go there 3 times a week, not Mondays, what the heck, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. At this point, she was healthy enough still to drive herself there and back, you know, still take me to the store, to school, everything like that. That's one thing she loved doing, was taking me to school. So we did that for a couple years, and then fast forward some to 2010 is when life, you know, kind of goes uphill a little bit. So the summer of 2010, my grandma comes up to me and is like, hey, how would you like to go to Texas for, you know, a week or 2 in the summer? And I was like, yeah, you know, I've never been to Texas, I've never flown anywhere, so why not, to go visit my aunt and uncle. So I ended up going to Texas to visit my aunt and uncle and my cousins. And you guys, I remember the first time going to Texas, I fell in love. I will always be a Cali girl, but when I got to Texas, there's just something about Texas. If you're from there or if you've moved there, you know what I mean. But there's just something about Texas. So I ended up going there and staying, I think, a week longer, because I just loved it so much. I was like, I don't want to leave. I want to move here. And so I did that. And then when I went back, I started 10th grade, and I don't know what happened, but 10th grade, I like completely stopped going to school. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do the school thing anymore. And I think that really happened after my mom died. I kind of lost my motivation to do any school. Like, I made it through 6th grade, but, you know, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, like, I barely was making it by. Like, I was making C's and D's, which in some states that's not passing at all, but in California that's passing. So 10th grade started, and from the time 10th grade started to winter break in 10th grade, I think that whole, you know, those couple months, I went to school a week tops out of that whole time. Yeah, I know, crazy white, right? I was stitching, I was pretending I was sick, and then finally I just stopped going because I stopped caring. So I ended up going back to Texas in 2010. Yeah, 2010 of Christmas break, and I remember sitting at the table with my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. And my aunt looks at me and she's like, so how would you like to move here? And I was like, yeah, I'd like to move here, like, but what about my grandma? Like, what are we gonna do with her and her dialysis and everything? And I'll never forget this, because again, this was like a big shook moment in my life. She was like, no, it would just be you. And I was like, wait.
What? Just me? Like,
what about my friends? What about my family? What about, you know, everything? Like, I always said I wanted to move to Texas, but I never wanted to just pick up my life and, you know, move to Texas. So being a 15-year-old hormonal teenager, I threw the biggest fit. I was like,
no, I'm not going. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to leave my grandma. Like, you can't make me, basically. And
then my grandma was like, look, like, this is gonna be good for you, you know, I don't want to do this either, but I love you enough to send you off to put you in a better situation, because, you know, I don't think any 15-year-old should be like completely stop going to school, having to take care of, you know, their grandma when they're still a child themselves. Not saying I regret that, you know, that was like the best thing I could have done, because, you know, she took care of me all my life, so I was giving it back to her. But, you know, being so young, I wasn't able to enjoy being a kid. So moved to Texas, and I ended up being homeschooled. The dog. So they ended up adopting me. My aunt and uncle adopted me. So I went from having kind of no family to having this big family, mom and dad and 3 older brothers. Honestly, I grew up an only child, so I always wanted older siblings. I never wanted younger siblings, but I ended up getting 3 older brothers, which was nice, because I never wanted a sister. I always wanted brothers, because I just, like, you know, I love brothers. They my homies. And while I was doing the homeschool thing, I still struggled with school. Like, I would do the work and get it done, but I wasn't really learning or interested in learning. So as soon as I turned 18, I got my first job at Sonic, and that job itself, you guys, taught me so much. I loved coming home with tips. I loved, you know, just the aspect of everything. Sorry, the dog's barking. I love the aspect of everything. It taught me to get out of my bubble and not be shy anymore, which I was such a shy little girl. Working at Sonic itself was one of the best experiences of my life. Just the choices I made while working there. I ended up dating this guy, and it ended up being a very emotional and verbal abusive relationship, which I do not wish on anyone, even my worst enemy. I do not wish that on them. So going through all that, I guess, triggered my depression or started my depression up. I don't really know what you would call it, but my depression started, and it got bad. Like, I got to my lowest of lows. There was one point in time, or not one point in time, there was one point in my life where I was so depressed, you guys, I thought about suicide. Now that kind of like hurts me to admit it, because no one knows, but I really thought about it. Like, even thinking about it to me feels like so bad. But I thought about it. Obviously, I never attempted it or did it, because I'm still here. I truly feel like God had other plans for me, because he was like, no, you know what? You are going to get through this. You will get through this. And I ended up getting through it, even though it took me 5 years. Like, you guys, like, when I say this, I mean it. I didn't get over all that stuff until about a couple months ago. So it took me 5 years to get over something. And, you know, some people would be like, oh, why didn't you just get over it? Or stuff like that. But it was really hard. So that was a big turning point in my life. And I was like, you know what? Like, I can't be having these thoughts anymore. I'm going to do something. I'm going to take action about it. So I got myself out of that stage of depression. But for a couple years after that, I was so depressed. I was doing stuff that, you know, wasn't me. I ended up getting arrested for shoplifting. I spent the weekend in jail. That's another story time video. But yeah, just like looking back at that, I'm like, you know what? Like, that wasn't me. Like, that wasn't the Taylor I know. Like, that wasn't me. And like, I'm not trying to make an excuse or anything. I'm just like saying, like, you know, I wasn't myself. So that happened, and, you know, I ended up quitting Sonic. I was like, you know what? I can't work here anymore. I'm not going to do it. I hung in there for the longest time, because at the beginning of 2015, I got a new job. It was my first ever nanny job, and you guys, that was like the best job ever. Not the best job ever, but like, that was like the best job to start with, because I didn't want to work in fast food again. I didn't want to do that stuff. So I got a nanny job, and I did that for about a month and a half, I want to say, a month or 2 months. Started in January, and it ended in February. Yeah, so a month or two. And then the beginning of the year, I met this guy, and you guys know, the whole year of 2015, I spent my year breaking up with this guy, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together. And it was so emotionally draining. Like it wasn't abusive, it wasn't anything like that, but it was so emotionally draining because, you know, we would break up, I would get so heartbroken, you know, act like it's the end of the world. And then, you know, as soon as I was fine, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm over it. I don't need him. He would come back and, you know, work his way to getting me back. So I spent a year of my life doing that, which completely sucks. And also in 2015, I got another nanny job in October. And you guys, that job, like, was a heaven sent job. I was working at daycare before that, and they ended up firing me for the most stupidest reason ever. And I felt like that was God's way of saying, hey, I'm gonna have you step away from this job because I'm putting a better opportunity in your life. So I got a nanny job. I started November of 2015, and I worked there until January 2017. And you guys, that was the best time of my life. That was like my stepping stone into getting out of my depression. You know, the people were great. I looked up to the mom, I looked up to the dad. They were such genuine people, and I always felt like I was home when I was there. Like, you know, that was the start of that. And then finally, in the beginning of 2016, I had a friend. One good thing that came from that breakup relationship was I met my best friend, Allison, and at this time, I think it was January 2016, she was dating this guy named Robert, and she was like, hey, I want you to meet Robert's friend Chance. And I was like, okay, why am I gonna meet a guy when I'm already going back and forth with this other guy? She was like, no, I just want you to meet him, just see what you think about him. And so I kid you not, guys, I met him, and I was like, oh, okay, well, you're just another guy, like, you're probably like the rest, so whatever. So I didn't pay no mind to him. We hung out, and I remember one day we were at the fair. We went to this rodeo, and we were on this ride, and I got so scared, you guys. It was a ride I had always wanted to go on, but I was so terrified. So he talked me into going on the ride, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on this ride. I was so scared. I thought I was gonna pee my pants, so I just grabbed his hand like that. Like, I grabbed his hand because I was like, I'm scared. And ever since that, like, it's like a switch turned on, a spark, you know, spark lit up, and I have been with him since. I've been with him for 2.5 years, which was a huge blessing to me because all my teenagers, I always, you know, looked for the right guy. You know, I spent, you know, oh, is this guy the right one? Is this guy? And to finally have the right guy in front of me when I didn't expect it was truly, truly amazing. So I ended up moving in with him. We were pregnant, and it was very stressful at the time. I mean, who wouldn't be stressed when you find out you're pregnant? But I truly felt like it was meant to happen that way because there could have been other times in my life that I had the chance to get pregnant, but it didn't happen. And yeah, so we ended up moving into our own little apartment. I had Selah, and then after I had Selah, we ended up moving to New Mexico, where he's from, when Selah was 4 months old. He ended up getting a job in the oil field just so, you know, he could provide for the family and we could pay off our debt, and we have been here ever since. So yeah, that's kind of my, you know, life up until now in a little nutshell. I know this video was long, but yeah, honestly, I wouldn't have had my life go any other way because looking back at it, everything I've gone through has just made me a stronger person. Like, every situation has made me a stronger person, and I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through anything or go through everything that I went through. And I'm proud of the person I am today. I'm proud of the mother I am. I'm proud of, you know, the girlfriend I am, just, you know, and of course I'm not perfect. I still have, you know, stuff to learn here and there, but you know, that's just part of life. You're always growing, you're always learning. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know me. I know this video was really chit-chatty. Hopefully you guys had some snacks to keep you entertained. But that's my life in a nutshell, how I became the person I am today, and I wouldn't have had it any other way, because I am damn proud of the person I am, and I'm so happy to say that, because there was a time in life, like I said, I was at my lowest of lows, and I've been at my highest of highs, and I would never want to go back to my lows. You know, some days I still have my depression get to me, but you know what, you just got to make the best of it and work through it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It would mean so much to me if you hit that subscribe button so we can grow our family. And if you want to get to know more of what I do personally, make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter. That's where you can, you know, interact with me, message me, do whatever you want. So yeah, and if you have any questions about anything I talked about, feel free to leave them down below. I have nothing to hide. I mean, I just shared my whole life with you, so I mean, I'm not embarrassed to answer anything. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.